I'm really excited to be with you guys tonight. I've been excited to be here the whole time. I'm so thankful. I don't know that there'll be opportunity, and he probably doesn't want it to happen anyway, but I just want to express love and admiration for our DYD, David Herwick. Can we just express our love? So thankful for him, his leadership. I know that the talks tomorrow, I don't think he'll ask us all to clap for him. But maybe. So all kidding aside, I want to provide opportunity just to thank him and appreciate all the effort that he put into this in a obviously difficult season of his life. And so just super thankful on a lot of levels. I'm honored to be with you guys tonight. And I want to say something that should be pretty obvious is that I'm not an expert on leadership. I think anybody that claims to be an expert on leadership is kind of an imbecile. Because leadership by definition is influence, right? And so I believe that we're all called to be leaders on some level. We all influence someone. And so to declare that you're in some way able to identify influence at a higher capacity, I think is maybe just a level of immaturity or ignorance. What I'm finding is anybody that is a student of leadership is a lifelong student of leadership. And everyone in this room is a leader, all at different levels, all at different capacities, all at different layers and levels of influence. And I want to give you just kind of a brief idea of who I am a little bit. Just it will sound a little bit creepy or it's uncomfortable for me because it sounds a little bit like a resume. I'm just saying some quick highlights just so if you're out there going, why in the world should I even listen to what he's saying? I want to share some insight that I've gained, and I want to let you know how I gained that insight so that you can kind of hear it maybe. So I've pastored for 17 years, ordained Assemblies of God minister. Hallelujah. And I was a youth pastor for 10 years and then transitioned from youth ministry to executive pastor at the same church. So I served at the same church for 17 years and then felt a call that my season there was coming to an end. I transitioned out of there in 2016, but prior to that, in 2017, I established an organization to assist and come alongside leaders, groups, and churches, and both in the secular world as well as, obviously, churches in the spiritual world. And so I had the opportunity to work with a lot of different leaders at a lot of different levels, and in 2016, I did a 2-month sabbatical, and then I leaned into running the organization a little bit more full-time. And had the opportunity to work with amazing churches really all over the country. And it's been super humbling. In the midst of that, God revealed that we should plant a church. And so I started that process a little while ago, and right on the front end of it, I moved in August to a community on the east side of Rochester. Somehow God convinced 6 crazy other people to join us, some of which are here. Dan Taradolin, Karen Hart, and Stacy will get out there eventually, and we're thankful for the group of people that God has kind of brought together, and we're humbled by that. But in the midst of that season, we continue to come alongside. Me and my team continue to come alongside churches, and so in that window of time, we're under contract working with churches anywhere from just under 15 all the way up to a little over 6,000, and so. I'm saying that to let you know I've had kind of a fly-on-the-wall opportunity in some of the smaller, medium-sized, and larger churches across our country. And tonight the temptation, as someone that's passionate about preaching and parsing Scripture and bringing it alive the best I can, I'm tempted to do a sermonette on leadership, but I don't think that would be helpful. I think what would be most helpful is for me to talk about the experiences that I've had that are in common with all of the different leadership environments that I've been exposed to, whether it's working with CEOs of large organizations, which I've had the honor to do through leadership coaching and some consulting stuff, or in church environments. And to say, listen, based on what I've seen, here are some timeless principles, here are some practical pitfalls, here are some things to be aware of. And hopefully at the end, my goal, if I were just to be clear about what my goal is, my goal is not to wow you with like, oh my goodness, that's leadership wisdom that I have never received. Henceforth, thou art the greatest. I don't really know what I'm doing now. But some ridiculous context like that. My goal isn't to wow you. My goal is to, if I'm just being transparent, it's that the Holy Spirit through me would reveal just maybe one thing to every person in this room that you might put on your phone or ask the Holy Spirit to lock in your heart or to rearrange something or to consider. That's it. If you, maybe 99.9% of what I'm going to say, you're like, I know this, I know this, I know this, but if that 1%, God will say, but what about that? Man, that would be a prayer answered. And so I want to open up in a word of prayer that we would just kind of open our hearts to that, through kind of the simplicity of a talk, if we would. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight just admitting that in and of ourselves, we're nothing. I mean, we are the accumulation of your willingness to gift us and then to breathe life into us, to save us, to call us. Lord, we're so humbled by that reality, and I pray that tonight your Spirit would reside in this place. And Lord, we give you permission to rearrange something, anything within our heart and minds, that we would leave this place having had an encounter with the living God. And so whether I'm ever remembered for saying it, or if it's simply a note that's stumbled upon years to come, that something of your Spirit would breathe life into every leader in this room, that your world would be transformed for your glory. In your name we pray. Everyone said? Amen. Amen. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of talk simply about things. And one of the things that I'm going to share really is the greatest leadership experience I've ever personally had happened on a mountain. I was encouraged to go on a winter hike in the Adirondacks. And I don't know if you've ever hiked a high peak, but the idea of doing one in the winter, for some reason, seemed like a good one at the time. And so we thought, hey, what would be cool is if we actually hiked Giant, which is a pretty legit mountain in the high peaks, and in the winter, it's arguably one of the most difficult winter summits to do. It was pretty dumb, to be honest. And so what we did is there was a group of us, you might know some of them, so there were three of us. It was me, Eric Hamlin, so Eric and Deidre Hamlin are another couple that are joining us in our venture. And then there's Jeremiah Polson, who you might know, he's the youth pastor at Word of Life. And so the three of us decide, hey, let's do a high peak. And so what we do immediately is we start laying out a map, and we consider all the different routes, right? And so we start laying out, okay, this is where we'll enter, this is what time we need to get there, and we start deciding which path we'll take. Then we start talking about all the material we need, all the equipment, the snowshoes, the first aid kits, whatever it is that's required, food, things like that, right? So we're gathering all the resources necessary, we're deciding on a path, and then we start doing something that was new to me. We start saying, listen, what time do we need to be at this location in order to continue so that we know we'll make the summit before it's dark, that it's safe. So we start setting goals all along the way. We have to be at this point by this time. We have to be at this point at this time, so on and so forth. And so we hit the trailhead at about 9 in the morning, which was far too late. But we had decided, why not just leave the Syracuse area at about 5 in the morning? Again, that part was kind of stupid. And so we hit the trailhead at about 9 a.m. It's 15 below zero at the trailhead. There's fresh powder, somewhere around 6 feet of snow, and we're the first one cutting the trail. About 25 yards in, our water lines flash freeze. Just solid, like rock. I don't know if this is going to work. And so we realized that if you stick the water line into your shirt, your body will warm it up, and then you can keep drinking. And so we're like, oh, we'll probably fine. So we keep going in, and if you turn your snowshoe to the side accidentally, you're taking snow all the way up to the nether regions, and you're needing help to get out of that because you're standing on top of snow. So just to give you a picture if you've never endured such chaos. And so we're going along, and we're summiting, and we're going along, and it's a long day. It's a hard day. It was crazy. It was beautiful. All along the way, you're looking, and we're stopping and taking in the view, and we're amazed. And it gets to a point, and if you're familiar with Giant at all, it gets to a point where there's these things called false summits, where you get up and you're like, I made it. We're at the top, dude. We did it. We did it. High five. I almost died. Remember that? You're like, we're not there yet. And so I remember one fall summit in particular where we stop, and I'm like, dude, we've missed our last 2 goals. We're not sure. The goal was to summit Giant and then go down and do Rocky Peak Ridge, RPR. Now we've realized we have to eliminate RPR, and we're not sure we're going to summit Giant in time. And so we're trying to make a decision, like, do we keep going on, or what's the deal? We're tired, we're sore, and we start looking at the map, and we're like, you know what, I think we can probably press on and make it. And we come around the bend, and we hit that final fall summit, if you will. And no joke, I come out through the snow, I'm like, this is amazing. This is beautiful, look at this. And Eric's like, yeah, this is the last fall summit. I'm like, I curse you, Satan. Get ye behind me, Lucifer, you prince of darkness. And Jeremiah's like, what? No, but anyway, you'll catch that later. But in either case, I'm like, this is good enough. I for real said that, this is good enough. And then I start looking at the map, and I'm like, listen, this is the view we'll have. It's facing the same way as the summit. This is good enough. And so Jeremiah's kind of like, yeah, I think it might be good enough. And Eric is like, you know, I don't think it is good enough. And I'm like, what do you mean? So he starts telling me all the stories that he has read of what it looks like from the summit. How you can see this, how you can see that. He starts painting this crystal clear picture. And he starts talking about the beauty of the view from the summit compared to settling for the view here. And I'm like, all right, shut up, I get it. Let's go. Let's move on. And so we press on. And we get to a place where now everybody realizes we're going to exit in the dark because of the pace we have. And so we have headlamps, we're prepared for that, but we don't want to do it. And so now everybody, kind of the conversation is maybe we should turn around. And I've gotten to a place where I'm like, I don't know how you're wired, but the way I'm wired is like, I'm not going to come this far and tell my family I stopped short of the summit. Maybe that's bullheadedness. I don't know really what it is. Maybe, yeah, it is. And so I kind of push ahead, and there's this spot right before the summit where it's straight up. In the summertime, it's pretty hard. It's kind of like a scramble where you have to walk, you have to kind of climb up a rock face and sort of pull on the base of trees, and in some cases, some people even use ropes and stuff. Well, on the front end where it's exposed, it's about a foot of solid ice, and it's like an ice wall, straight up. And so there's basically the opportunity on the front of your snowshoes to stick into the ice and to start to kind of climb this and scale it. And so I slide down one time, I slide down a second time, and so they're called crampons, the sharp points. And so I'm like, I'm going to get up this thing, because if those dudes get here and I'm not up it, they're going to bail, and that's unacceptable to me. So I just ram these crampons in, and I climb up, and I scale. It's over my head, I don't know, about 8 to 10 feet. I get up to the top, and Eric and Jeremiah come around, and it's literally like this. I'm looking down, my feet are above their head, and they're like, done. And I was like, no, you, forgive me, this is exactly what I said, you freaking losers. The heck with that. I was like, I was ready to bail 2 or 3 times before. You are getting up here. They're like, no, we're not going to do it. I was like, fine, I don't care. You know what? Because I have to live with myself. And I am not going to come this far and not see that summit. I was like, so you little Nancy boys can wait down in the car. You can get it toasty for me if you want. Grab a sandwich and come back, because I'm going to summit this thing. And they're like, oh, come on, dude, I don't care. That's not going to work on me. Jeremiah's like, that's not going to work on me. I was like, I don't care. I'm telling you, I'm going to do it. And if you guys have to climb back up here to get my dead body, then so be it. You're going to tell my wife why you bailed on me. So I kind of turn around, kind of shame them a little bit, And they're like, no, we could do it. And so it was one of those defining moments where I realized inside myself when I had gone, and some of you have been there physically, when you physically get to the point where you're like, and I'm done. And you're like, but I'm not. There's a practice that we could do. So why don't we do that real quick? Reach up as high as you can, as physically as high as you can, all the way up with your hand. As high as you can, as high as you can, as high as you can. Reach. Okay, ready? Are you reached up as high as you can? Now go a little bit more. Okay, did you see it? Right? That's what I'm talking about. That's the way we live, right? This is as high as I can go. This is as far as I can go. A little bit more. Okay, I got a little bit more. Right? That's the way we live our lives. That's the way we often lead. That's the way we often lead. And so in that moment, I think it was one of my greatest leadership moments, really, where I started to realize in that moment that there was something in me that had a different level to not only cast the vision of what is possible, but come to a resolve in myself to say, I'm doing this, even if I do it alone. And so I turned around and went to the top, and they joined me, and we were 0.2 miles from the summit at that moment. We didn't know it. Came around the corner, we hit the summit. We were all excited. It was estimated with wind chill to be negative 55 degrees that day on the summit. I thought it'd be awesome to take a picture, so I slipped my glove off for less than 10 seconds. My fingers flash froze. This one turned black in a matter of seconds. It was super fun. You haven't really lived till you've urinated on your hand. I'm not joking. I'm not kidding around. Like, what are you going to do? I'm like shoving it in things. I'm like, I'm going to lose that sucker. That thing's going to fall off. And then I just realized, you know what might work is my urine. And it did. So I kept my fingers, which was cool. But I lost some dignity. In either case, I'm telling you that story tonight because I think it's a picture of leadership and vision that I think we can all maybe grasp something from, that there's a process in which you need to equip for where it is that you're headed. And there's a process in which you have to say, and this is the path we're taking. And then there's mile markers that you need to say, listen, at this point, we have to be here if we're going to continue on. And then when you get there, you make tactical decisions. Do we keep moving on? We miss the goal. Do we move forward? Yes, we do, or no, we don't. And at some point, everyone involved will say, you know what? I think we've come far enough. I think we've come far enough. And at that moment, is there a willingness for someone among you to say, let me talk about what the vision is from somewhere else that's so compelling it won't allow you to remain where you are? Man, I think that's the role of leaders. To say it's not okay where you are, that there's a little bit more. And you know what? We pervert it. We pervert it to this. I got a little bit more, so I'm going to give a little bit more at the expense of my family, at the expense of my spirituality, at the expense of everything. And why? Because I have a resolve within me that I'm going to do that which God has called me to do. Aren't I spiritual? Praise God. We twist it. We twist it. Why? Because it's our fallen condition. It's our fallen condition that gets mixed in there. And I want to let you know, regardless of what size church you lead, what size ministry you lead, what size volunteers you lead, from what it is that I've experienced in interacting with leaders of all different sizes, there is something carnal about going where no one has gone before. There's something flesh and almost addictive about pushing beyond what you think is possible. And if you're an athlete, you know what I mean. It's almost like the crack you live on. It's an adrenaline high where you're like, listen, I want to do what I thought was not possible. And I think in some cases, leaders become addicts to their own accomplishments or their own potential accomplishments. So the thing that I want to talk about and the theme that's going to be in here, I'm going to talk about personal leadership, and then I'm going to talk about interacting with volunteers and staffing. I want to talk about the most important thing that, if you can leave this place with it just ringing in your mind, is self-awareness. Self-awareness. And it's easy to say, like, I'm pretty self-aware. If you say you're pretty self-aware, you're not. Self-awareness starts with your willingness to say, I'm not so sure who I am apart from a child of God. Everything else is kind of messy. Everything else is in process. Self-awareness is a willingness to look at yourself through the lens of other people. You know, communication is the responsibility of the person communicating, right? And we all talk the way we prefer to be communicated to. So I have Hispanic background. It'd be really easy for me to talk in perfect Spanish right now, and some of you would understand that. A majority of you would be like, I don't understand. And I'd be like, you idiots, I'm saying it perfectly. But I'd be the idiot, right? Because the majority of you don't speak Spanish. A majority of leaders communicate in their preference style and assume that everyone in the room should be hearing it the way they prefer. The higher you get in the organization, the worse it is. I've worked with CEOs that are absolute imbeciles, and everyone acts like they're geniuses. Why? Because they're the boss. The higher you get up in the organization or the higher you get up in your ministry, If you're the youth pastor, the volunteer youth pastor, the children's director, the worship leader, whatever, everybody on your team will default to your preference of communication unless your spouse is part of that team. That's a whole nother conversation. And you need to be self-aware about that. You see what I'm saying? That's what I mean by self-awareness. It's not just who I know I am. It's looking at people as you're articulating and them going, uh-huh, and you being like, I'm not connecting. Or you barking in order and people saying, oh yeah, no, you're probably right. You're probably right. And you have to fight against that because it's natural. The higher you get up in the organization, people think you're the smartest. Not because they actually think they do, but because you're the boss. Something else I want to make you aware of is that stress is caused by you functioning outside of your natural wiring. So there's two types of stress. There's eustress, that's positive, okay? That's where you're being stretched in who you're wired to be. And so I have certifications in different personalities, MBTI, DISC, all that stuff. And in personalities, there's a thing called your natural, and then there's your adaptive. And when you're being stretched in your natural, it's like you're hitting your stride. You're like, man, this is a good stretch. Like, I'm crushing it right now. I feel good. It's eustress, okay? It's hard, but you're feeling good about it. The opposite side is when you're adapting. And when you're adapting, you're actually creating negative stress. And a lot of leaders live in a place where they're functioning outside of their natural wiring. And it's super tiring. And for some reason, we call it burnout. Is it possible that it's a lack of self-awareness? I want to tell you, yes, it's possible. Not always, but it's possible. Sometimes we become lead pastors because we think that that's what we're supposed to do, but really we're supposed to be a care pastor or a number 2 leader. Maybe you're supposed to be a children's pastor, but somewhere along the line through obligation, you functioned as a youth pastor and everybody cheered you on. And so you said, listen, I'm just going to keep working at it, even though I'm really called to the younger generation. And so we apologize for the way that God's wired us. So be aware of that. If you're stressed out tonight, I think you need to ask yourself some self-awareness questions. I want to ask you tonight, do you live a life with margin? Do you live a life with margin? Is there space in your life? Here's a good question for you. Are you worth following? Are you worth following? If you're a leader, if every person, and listen, you know your own garbage, right? So if we're honest, like none of us are worthy of being followed. It's Christ and Christ alone. He's done the work in and through us. He's redeeming us. And Paul even said, listen, follow me as I follow Christ. Like, it's not about me. It's about us pressing towards what it is that Christ has called us to be and to do. But if you just take an assessment of your life, if you allow the Holy Spirit to just review your life, are you worth following? How are you with money? I work with a lot of leaders. How are you with money? I don't mean like, no, I'm pretty good with it. Are you generous? Are you generous? Because if you're not generous with money, is it possible that money has become an idol that you're bound to? That you'll deal with finances in your ministry, in your department, in your church? You'll gather, you'll hoard. You'll spend without stewardship. I'm amazed at the level of high-level leaders that have poor stewardship with kingdom resources. Listen, I'm telling you some stuff that stinks because it's leadership. It's stuff that I've learned. If you can't figure out the role that money plays in your life, it's only going to get worse from here. So how are you with money? How are you with your time? Are you unavailable? I don't mean just like unavailable, like, oh yeah, I know, like, it's just I'm so busy. No, I mean like, is your time something that you are managing? Are you providing margin so that you can hear from God? There's a practical help that I'll put in there. I think some of the guys that function best and gals that function best, and I've worked with both male as well as female leaders, so anytime I say guys, it's just a generalization, so don't hold that against me. I'm speaking of both genders. When the people that deal best with their time, they have one day for meetings. In some cases, 2. Most of us in this room, we take meetings based on when they're desired or when I'm available or, oh, hey, a meeting now? Sure, yeah, let's do it. But the people that have gone the furthest, the fastest, the people that are leading at a high capacity, they have relegated their time to say, on this day, I take meetings. Or on these 2 days, I take meetings. Have you minimized your life-sucking relationships? Because there's people that'll just call you every day, right? Can we meet again, Pastor? Can we meet again? You're my favorite. Can we meet again? Can we meet again? Can we meet? No, for the love. Have you minimized life-sucking relationships? So have you controlled your time enough to say, this is the times that I meet? Now, I realize that there's emergencies and things that happen, but there's a real good way. See, if, let's just say, Wednesdays are your meeting day. When someone calls and wants to have a meeting, can you say, you know what, I have an opening on Wednesday at 9. Oh, that'd be great. Thanks, Pastor. That's perfect. I was going to meet with them today. People that will say, no, I need to meet with you sooner. Oh, really? Why? Is it an emergency? Yes. And then they explain why. Okay, meet with that person because it's an emergency. But the fact is, you have control of your time. You're making a decision to meet with someone in an emergency. You see what I'm talking about? Managing versus just run with it. One of the things that you can do, practical again, I'm trying to be as practical as I can that maybe you can take something away with, is to set an alarm for your meeting. So I've done that before with people who are like, listen, I have exactly an hour, and I love you, man. When we get together, we talk, and then we just get lost in it. So for my own sake, because I'm going to get lost, I'm going to set my alarm for an hour. And then when this goes off, you have to help me leave. All right. You're thinking, really help me leave. You know, I mean, because there's some of those people that you're like, listen, I got to protect my time. So set an alarm. There's nothing wrong with it. People are not offended by that. They're also not offended when you ask your secretary, can you call me in an hour? Call me in an hour and just say that you need me because I need to get out of this meeting in an hour. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with asking your wife or your husband to say, can you just call me in an hour? I got to get out of this meeting. Do you control your time? Here's another principle that I think is helpful. Meet where you can leave. Meet where you can leave, man. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, yeah, come on in. We meet in my office. Come on in. And then the person's like, well, just one more thing. Just one more thing. Oh, has it been a whole day? One more thing. You know, you're like, for the love, leave. But if we're meeting somewhere else, oh, man, I got to go. Got to go. Nothing wrong with that. Meet in places you can leave. Okay. There's 2 types of people in the room, and I'm grouping them generally. There's scheduled people and spontaneous people. So the minute I start talking about meeting on one day, some of you are like, oh, why would you cage me in like that? I'm a free spirit. I want to just run and go and hear from the Lord, and may the Spirit lead me. Hallelujah. You know, whatever. That's kind of funny if like the Spirit's leading you to have meetings. But anyway, the fact is, there's 2 general types of people. There's scheduled people and spontaneous people, and both are fine. But both can have the same answer, and it's called block scheduling. Block scheduling. So example, I'll just throw something out there. I want 2 hours to work on my sermon. I'm going to have 2 hours for sermon prep on Monday. I'm going to have 2 more hours on Thursday. And if you're like, no, I can't do that. I need 8 hours straight on one day. Okay, then Monday is my sermon prep day, blocked out. If you're a spontaneous person, when you work with blocks, you can move the blocks spontaneous, and it feels good. Right? But you're not disengaging from your responsibility. Because Romans 12 says if you're going to lead with what? Diligence. Diligence. Lead with diligence. Lead with zeal. Lean in. Take your responsibility seriously. You know what? When people say, oh man, it's so easy. I can write a sermon in 20 minutes. That's amazing. Congratulations. Who cares? I mean, I don't understand. Is that something to aspire to? And listen, if you take 50 hours, I take 50 hours to do sermon prep. Congratulations. Who cares? Is that something to aspire to? I don't know. So I'm saying that, and I've heard from a lot of you to that end. I'm not picking on you if you're saying, I said that. I said 50 hours. I can do it. I'm just saying, like, there isn't a right time. Like, there's no right. What is right is what it is that you can stand rightly before God and say, listen, I handled the scripture with integrity. I'm articulating it with truth, and I have application. And so I'm not taking it out of context, and I understand the application that's revealed in Scripture. I've revealed the truth of the gospel, and Lord, it's up to you to transform hearts today. If you can do that with integrity, you're killing it. The question is, have you set the time aside to do it, or is it being interrupted and disengaged? Because when you have block scheduling, it's amazing how you can just move that block. When all of a sudden there's an emergency and you have a 2-hour block on Monday for sermon prep, and there's an emergency, you just look at, oh, I'm going to move that block to Wednesday. Done. There. Now you can meet with that person and you still know you're going to get done what you need to get done. And like I said, for some of you, you're sitting there like, I know I'm super organized. Why are we talking about this? Block scheduling. Blah. That's fine. There's some people in the room that are like, I can move a block. And so here's the other thing. Put a buffer in there. Put buffers between your blocks. I hope somebody tuned in right there. Put buffers between your blocks. What are we talking about? I don't know. Sermon prep. So if you have a buffer in between these time blocks, it awards you the opportunity to disengage if you want. If you want to go long on a sermon prep, then you can run into your buffer and just keep going. But if not, and you're like, listen, today is painful. I can't concentrate. I can't get this song list done, whatever. Then you can just say, hey, I got a buffer coming up. I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee without guilt. Without guilt. I'm going to go grab coffee. Why? Because I have an hour in my schedule to do whatever I need because I've been responsible with the other time that I have. Are you being a good steward of your time? Are you managing your time? Just some ideas, some things that I've picked up along the way. Control your calendar or it will control you. If you've seen that example, that illustration that's been done to death where you put the big blocks in first and, if you put the small rocks in and the sand, then the big blocks don't fit. But if you put the big blocks in first, then you can put the rocks and the sand and water. And I don't even know if you've ever seen that illustration. If you haven't, you're like, what are you talking about? I don't know. Google it. The point is, are you putting the things that matter most into your time first? Because if not, you're going to miss out on the things that really matter, like your kid's childhood or your marriage. Have you scheduled those in? I mean, legit, I'm asking, like, is there something in your schedule to pour into the most valuable responsibilities you have in this world? Listen, if you pastor a church, if you pastor a ministry, resign tomorrow, you will be replaced. Someone will come after you. But you're your kid's only parent. And you're your spouse's only spouse. Take that responsibility for it. Listen, if you can't lead in the context of what it is that God's given you personally, but you think you're going to step over that and lead effectively in the ministry setting, you're bracing for a serious fall. When you have things in the right priority, the blessing of God will flow out of that. And so I want to challenge you to consider something that I do, and it can be some variation. I talked about it in the last talk. Every year I do a personal retreat, and one of the things that I do in a personal retreat, and now I'll just literally briefly talk on this. I come up with all the roles that I fill. Father, husband, Christian, pastor, whatever the roles are that I fill, I'll put them down, and then I'll say, in a year from now, this is where I want to be. As a father, I want to be here. As a father for Elise, I want her to say this about her daddy. As a father for Aubrey, I want to say this about her. As a father for Gideon, I want him to say this about. As a husband, I want Meredith to say this. And then I reverse engineer it and say, if I want to be there in a year, what do I have to do in 6 months? What do I have to do monthly? What do I have to do weekly? And I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that you have to you're like, oh my gosh, if that's what it means to be, I don't even have time to do that. I need to schedule a block for that. Okay. Schedule a block for it. I don't know what it looks like. It doesn't have to be that detailed. It's developed over years. But listen, if you're not taking time to be intentional, then you're not going to get where you want to be. The highest capacity people in the world that are winning in the world, that are moving forward. And by winning, I don't mean winning in the eyes of the world. I'm talking about they're looking around with their wife of 50 years and their kids that are joyfully following their Savior, and they're going, if I had to do again, I'd do it the same way. Those people did it intentionally, not accidentally. And it started with putting things in their schedule to say, I'll tell you right now, Thursday night is my date night with my wife. That's it. In our wealthiest moments, it was elaborate. In our poorest moments, it was a blanket on the floor of our living room. But Thursday nights are our night. And when we schedule something on a Thursday night, we talk about it. I've been married for 18 years. And I say, hey, listen, is it okay if I do this on Thursday? Yeah, it's good. Because that's our night. And so we have a date night. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It can literally be toast on a blanket. Sometimes that's better if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so in either case, okay, I need to stop. So I want to encourage you, man, if you leave here and the only thing you're doing is reconsidering your marriage and reconsidering the way you're parenting your kids, man, that's a win. I'd be humbled by the idea that I even played a little part in that. But guys, girls, take that seriously. Control your calendar. This next thing I'm going to talk about is something that I learned, man, it was so hard for me to learn. I'm still learning it, is solitude. Solitude. Last time I was here, I was on stage, and during an interview, Dave Herwick said, what are you learning right now? And I said, solitude. I'm still learning it. And you know why? Is because I'll just be completely transparent as if I haven't already. But I like to accomplish. I like to do. I find joy in execution. I want to get stuff done. I want to get stuff done. And I feel like I was just like, slow down. Slow down. So I'm in a season of my life where God's just like, you slow down. And I'm learning solitude. But here's the deal. Solitude, we augment it. We augment solitude, right? So right now when I'm saying like solitude, you're like, oh yeah, I really need that. Like I'm just going to put on my music and just be alone with God. Like with music? Like, oh, right, yeah, no. Right, so I won't listen to music. I'll just be alone with God and my Bible. You know, Jesus didn't take scrolls with him to the wilderness. All right, for real. Like, he didn't have a Bible. He didn't grab the Old Testament scrolls and be like, I'm headed into the hills to spend some time in the Word. Right? We augment solitude. We turn it into something it's not in Scripture. Solitude is this. You go with nothing. Nothing. Oh my gosh, it's hard. It's darn right impossible. I set out, I was an imbecile. I was like, I'm going to do 8 hours of solitude. Call it reflect and review. I'm going to put a big old block in my schedule. I was like 8 minutes and like so then I'm like, I know, I'm going to pray. I'm just going to pray. So I'm pray through everything. And it's like, I've been praying a long time. I'm praying the Spirit now. Check me out. Boom. And then I'm like, now my mouth hurts. I'm tired. Praying a long time. Dang, it's been an hour and a half? What the heck? Like solitude? I can't do it. Congratulations, monks. You're awesome. So I want to challenge you, work up to it. Start with 10 minutes. You're going to be blown away what 10 minutes with nothing is like. In our society, solitude is gold like never before. We're inundated. Technology, noise, music. We augment everything. iPad, iPhone, even the Bible. Just be silent with God. Nothing. I double dog dare you. And every time you do it, whether it's once a month or once a week or whatever, make it a little longer next time. It will replenish your soul in a way you did not know possible. And for people that say, listen, I'm just so tired. I'm so tired. You know, the first time I tried solitude beyond an hour, so the second time I tried solitude, I fell asleep. It was God telling me, why don't you sleep enough? I'm like, seriously? I can't sit here without falling asleep? What's wrong with me? Did you know if you can't sit somewhere without falling asleep, you're not getting enough rest, tackhead? Like, which, by the way, I said tackhead. It sounded a little, got nervous there. Just clarifying, for all of those recording, I said tack. T-A-C-K. And so, if you guys encourage that, I will be like, look, the squirrel, dog, tree. I don't even know what I said. Anyway, I want to encourage you alone. And if you need to sleep, then sleep. And then the next time, come back at it and say, all right, I learned my lesson. I got some more rest. In fact, it's one of the things that I have on here is, do you sleep enough? Do you sleep enough? That's a struggle for me. Especially last night, my mind was, I laid down at 2 a.m., and I don't know when I actually passed out. It was just boom, 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 my mind's firing. I try to unload it by writing stuff and everything, but I get in windows sometimes where it's I can't shut my brain up. Are you sleeping enough? Date nights, getaways. The next thing I want to tell you about is self-awareness in the area of the way that we're wired. Not a lot of people talk about this, and honestly, I'm not sure why. But if you are familiar with the MBTI or Myers-Briggs, we're familiar with this language, extrovert, introvert, and we misinterpret it. We say things like, I'm an extreme introvert. That's not possible. So it's a preference, okay? So you have a preference for extroversion or a preference for introversion, and it's a pole, and you can line anywhere along that, and there's facets under each one. So you can be someone that prefers extroversion with facets that are out of pattern and tend to be introvert, okay? So it's a complex thing that sometimes we just minimize and be like, oh, I'm an ELO, whatever, oh, I know my 4 letters. That's pigeonholing. I'm talking about self-awareness, and so the reason why I bring up extroversion and introversion is because it's the way you gain energy. Extroversion and introversion has nothing to do with the way you express to the outside world. It's the way in which you gain energy. So people that have a preference for extroversion gain energy by being in this. And even right now, every once in a while when we laugh, you kind of feel your battery be you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, it happened again, right? You're like, yes, I love this. Just talk to somebody. Can I just talk to you right now next to me? And I don't even know what he's saying, and I like it, but I'm talking to you instead because I can. Now, that makes you sound like a little bit of a weirdo, but the fact is, extroverts gain energy by being with others, and introverts gain energy through solitude and being alone. And to use a generalization, sometimes it's being alone and writing, processing their thoughts. Sometimes it's being in silence, listening to music. You need to know yourself. It's a self-awareness thing. But the thing that matters, if you're unaware of that, you will deplete your energy and not know why. You won't know why, because you're not being intentional and self-aware to gain your energy. So here's the deal. If you've ever done a retreat, if you're a youth leader in the room or a youth pastor or anything like that, you ever gone on the retreat, this is what happens. As the weekend goes on, the people with a preference for extroversion are ready to go more and more every day. I slept 2 hours, you? Huh? We're killing it. You're like, I want to kill you. They're amped up, right? And so the leaders in the room that have a preference for introversion come into breakfast. They're like, I'm going to kill me a kid right now. I don't even know. I'm getting too old for this. And I'll kill you. I will kill you. I hate everybody. I don't even love Jesus right now. I don't know what's happening. I got to eat breakfast with all these little freaking brats. That one was screaming all night long. I hate this. I hate ministry. And then you see them on Sunday, they're like, oh, the retreat was a blessing. You're like, hi, crazy person. What? They're running on empty. They're running on empty. So if you are a person that prefers introversion, are you going into events that require energy and storing it up intentionally? Are you saying, hey, I'm going to go on a retreat, so I'm going to be alone for the 4 hours before we pack up the van because I want to be fully present with students so I can influence them for the gospel? Are you ramping yourself up, person that prefers extroversion, before you go home so that you can be fully present with your children instead of crashing from the energy ride that was ministry today? Because you can top out, and then you got your leftovers for the kids. Maybe that sounds familiar. Maybe a spouse has told you we feel like we're getting leftovers. Are you aware of who you are? Is there self-awareness? Do you understand? I have a preference for this, and it has to change the way I gain energy, because when we lose energy, we're most susceptible to our carnal desires. We're off kilter. And then the enemy speaks a lie about who we are or who someone else says we are, and all of a sudden, that person really seems to respect me. But man, it doesn't seem like my spouse respects me. Gosh. The lies creep in. That's how it starts. It's a trick as old as time, and it really is connected with just us understanding who it is that God created us to be. I want to challenge you to do something intentional. Go home before the work is done. Decide. You know why? Ministry work's never done, dummy. I'm saying that to myself, right? You're like, I just wish I could be, like, done. Like, I wish I could go back to the job that I had where I was like, I will forget about you until tomorrow. Ministry's not that way. So just accept it and decide, listen, I'm going to go home every night with a to-do list that's going to be on my desk in the morning. And I know I'm talking to people that are point leaders potentially, maybe full-time or part-time, but I'm saying it even if you're a volunteer. The work of ministry will never be done. Just come to grips with it. Go home before it's done. One of the things that I do, and you can take this or leave it, is I set my alarm a half an hour before I was supposed to be home. You know why? Because I continually lied to my wife about when I was coming home. I didn't mean to. There's nothing malicious. I'll be home at 5. And then I get home at 5:15. She's like, so did you mean you were leaving at 5 to be here at 5:15? Or are you late? Did you run into traffic? What happened? There's a great book that Andy Stanley wrote, and I just blanked out on it. Somebody's got to help me out. It's a thin book. Choosing to Cheat. Thank you. Several people say. Choosing to Cheat. Phenomenal book. Read it if you haven't. It's a quick read. It's gold. Choosing to Cheat. It's about relation. It's about the idea of causing your spouse or your family to hold a rock. It's one of the premises. You're holding a rock, and every day you're like, just hold it a little bit longer. And just hold it a little bit longer. So if you haven't read it, read it. So I started setting my alarm for half an hour early because I just knew that there was no way I was going to change the rhythm of how I wrapped things up. So my phone would go off at 4:30, and I would know I need to start leaving now because inevitably I'm going to come out and somebody's going to be like, hey, Claude, hey, before you go, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, and I need to get this and I need to get, and so I just decided that I wasn't going to have my wife wonder if she could trust me, if she could trust my word, if she could believe me when I say, I'll be home at 5. I'm not all right with her questioning my integrity on that. And so I intentionally set something up. So set an alarm. Maybe for you it's an hour before you have to leave. I don't know what it looks like. And maybe it's not applicable at all to you, but it was to me. I've heard this ridiculous thing that I'm just going to throw out there. If you've ever said it, I want someone to slap you. Satan doesn't take a day off. I hate that. That is so stupid. Jesus took a day off, so who do you want to be like, Satan or Jesus? That is the stupidest mentality I've ever heard. I'll sleep when Satan sleeps. Like, wow, well, you are holy. I'm going to set you on fire. What are you talking about? It's ridiculous. Take a day off. Rest. Get a rhythm in your life. Our willingness to take risks are in direct opposition to our perceived success. Let me say that one more time. Our willingness to take risks are in direct opposition to our perceived success. What that means is this: with all the leaders that I've worked with, whether they've turned a church of 15 to a church of 30, or if they've turned a church of 3,000 into a church of 6,000, their capacity and willingness to take risks goes down as they experience increased success. Why? Because they've got some pride in it. I've done something right. I better not mess it up. I've done something right. I better not mess it up. Everybody's looking. Better not screw it up now. I want to tell you that that's a tool of the enemy to minimize innovation, to minimize you being spirit-led, to minimize you taking God-ordained risks, to do something greater than yourself. Because, listen, if you're living for the accolades and the praise of others, you're living for the wrong thing anyway. I'd much rather be known as somebody that just took risks, God-centered, calculated risks. I'm not talking irresponsible idiocy where you put your family on a wild goose chase. I'm talking about a calculated, I've heard from God, I'm going to risk it, and what happens? If I fail, okay, I heard from God, and I took a risk. I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I tried something. And so I want to challenge you to get beyond your own perceived success and allow yourself to hear from the Holy Spirit and take risks that maybe others are unwilling to take. With success comes the potential to lose something when we risk, so leaders often turn into managers. That's what I wrote. Now, there's nothing wrong with managers. Managers execute things that need to get done. And I think that there's a season for leaders to make managerial decisions, tactical decisions, it's good stuff. But to relinquish your leadership role for the sake of maintaining that which is a sin. It's falling short of what it is that God's called you to do with your one and only life. This is your one and only life. Don't maintain something. We need men and women that are willing to say, listen, I'm going to take a God risk. Will you believe that God has placed a dream within your heart and life that is beyond what you can hope or imagine? Do you believe the vision yourself enough to say, I'm not willing to settle here because God's called me to more, and so I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it. You see, all too often leaders lack vision, clear vision. Like, we are headed here. Here's the path. Here are the goals. Let's go. The people that lack vision for their ministries are a result of them lacking vision for their lives. You can't have a vision for your ministry if you don't have a vision for your life. If you're just keeping the lights on and you're finding identity in the execution of activity and managing that which is, then you'll just go through the motions of ministry also. So what's the goal this week? Execute a Wednesday night. Execute a Sunday morning. Just get it done. You know what? If we're super spiritual, we'll do it a little bit better than we did last week. A little better. Come on, a little better. Let's keep this thing rolling. Just get a little better. So I want to ask you, are you leading or are you managing? Are you leading or are you managing? Almost done here. When it comes to staffing and volunteers, we have to spend more energy on how we recruit. We need to recruit to the lowest level. All too often I see in churches that we try to recruit to the highest level, and as a result, we end up with the biggest amount of heartache. We think that everybody wants to be a shepherd because we're shepherds or leaders, whatever you want to say, high capacity. The reality is there's a worker level. There's somebody that needs to set the chairs up. There's somebody that needs to execute the tasks, and you can't function at a shepherding level if you haven't proven yourself at a worker level. And all too often we want to put people in the shepherding role, and in the reality we jump over their consistency of the discipleship of the worker proven. When you have a proven worker that's aspiring to be a shepherd and to speak into the lives of others, you have someone that you're walking alongside and fostering, but all too often we want to jump it. And I'll tell you right now, get a high-capacity leader and say, listen, this is kind of the entry level. We got to set up these chairs. High-capacity leader will set up those chairs better than anybody's ever set them up in their life, right? And they'll be like, okay, cool, so anything else you need? Yeah, you can fix that table too. All right, sweet. Anything else? No, I think that'll do it for next week. If you could show up again next week and set up the chair, yeah, I'll be here. And they'll do it. And then all of a sudden they'll say this, is there anything else that you need besides setting up chairs? Like, yeah. You can have a conversation about expanding their role. And I'm talking about something, maybe I'm going a little bit too detail-oriented, but I'm talking about a concept, a principle of the idea of saying, I'm not going to put people in positions that when they haven't proven they have the character to sustain it, right? And sometimes we do the opposite. We're so unsure of what to do with the high-capacity leader that we keep them locked into a worker role. We don't allow them to be a shepherd. We don't allow them to be a high-capacity person that spreads their wings. And here's the worst travesty that we do, and I see often, is that we put people that are wired to be workers, and we call them to be shepherds, and it crushes them. We misalign people because we're not willing to understand the way they're wired, the way they're gifted. And I think we fail, if I can be honest, myself also, we fail as leaders when we misappropriate the people that God has sent us. Try to walk on your ear sometime. It's painful. It doesn't make sense. You can't go very fast. Why? Because your ear wasn't made for walking. Isn't that a song or something? No, right? Your feet are. Like, nobody would do that, but we do that in the body. We get different parts of the body that God has sent us, and we misappropriate them because of our desire to fill a need. We're like, just do this. I need you to do this. So you need to treat people with dignity. And I did my breakout on that, so I'm not going to go into it too much. I just want to say this, that we need on-ramps. We need clear on-ramps to identify people's gifts and their personality and align them properly so that we can provide opportunity for them to soar, for you to sit back and be like, oh my gosh, they have ideas I could never have come up with in that vein, in that area. That's amazing. What they're doing is incredible. The next thing that I want to challenge you is to elevate the role of character even above their not their capacity, but what they do. Competency. So elevate their character above their competency. I'd rather have someone that's not very good at doing something whose character I can trust. Because you can teach competency. They can get better at the things that God's called them to do. But if someone has a flaw in their character, that is a journey that's going to require them to not be in the spotlight. I mean, should we throw in the towel and not involve them in anything? Of course not. There's a discipleship role that has to play. But I'm just saying, when you're looking for people, you want character to trump competency. You need to evaluate how people speak, how they speak to others. Watch their spouse when they're talking. You want to know if that person's respected and if their character exists. Watch the way their spouse looks and acts when they're talking. You'll know everything you need to know. I'll tell you, when you're talking to a guy and all of a sudden his wife's like, as he's answering, you're like, oh, this dude's awesome. He's got the full respect of his wife, right? It tells you something about the things that you'll never know. So are you aware of that? Are you evaluating interactions? Ask the hard questions. How are you with money? It's okay. You can learn that. They can come along. But if they're not willing to be honest about it, be like, oh, I'm really good with money. Really? How much debt do you have? $250,000? Oh, since when? Last week? Not so good with money. Don't be afraid to ask questions about people that are at the highest level. If you're a pastor in the room and you're a lead pastor, or if you're in a situation where you've done any type of premarital counseling or have dealt with people who've gone through marriage difficulties, I've never had someone sit across the table and be like, well, here's the deal. We got married and then we stopped working on it. No, they're always like, I worked so hard, Pastor. I worked so hard. I've used this illustration before. I get a bag of Doritos right here and be like, here, build a house. You can work real hard. You're not going to have a house made out of Doritos. Somebody's going to call my bluff sometime and literally see Mark Freeman building a house out of Doritos and glue. Be like, look, it's a house. Be like, anyway, no, but I'm just saying, you can work really hard at something, but it doesn't make sense. So the question really is, are you working on the right things? Are you working on the right things? And as a pastor, are you working on the right things? And as a spouse, are you working on the right things? And if you're not willing to ask the questions about the people that you're called to shepherd, then are you really leading them? If you're not willing to say, listen, tell me about your finances. Both of you, husband and wife. What's things are rough. Okay, how rough? Let's talk about it. Here's another one. I'll be honest. I haven't done it yet, so they can all be scared. But one of the things that I'm going to ask, I can't wait to see their reactions. I kind of want to stare at them. Maybe I will. One of the things I'm going to ask my team as we move forward is how their sex life is. I'm going to ask them that. Because I have a right to know? No, I don't have a right to know. Gosh, that stuff's personal. But here's the deal. Every single person whose marriage has failed, when I have talked to them about their relationship, they've said, we haven't been intimate in, I don't even know how long. Wow. There's something wrong. There's something wrong there. So if you care about the people that God's brought to you, then, and they're in a married relationship, especially also if they're unmarried, being willing to ask them about their sexuality. And you can say, listen, I have no right to ask this. And I'm not claiming any authority in your life except for the fact that I'm your pastor and I love you and I love your marriage and I care about you. And I just want to know, are you guys intimate? Are you loving one another? Yes, we are, Pastor. And you know what? You'll know if they're lying, because if they say yes, they kind of smile. Yeah, it's good. Everything's okay. This is a lie. Yeah, no, we're good. Okay, just to let you know, if you're not familiar with when people are like, oh, sex? Yeah, good. Super awesome. I just had to mess around a little bit because it's an uncomfortable topic. But here's the deal, I mean, should it be uncomfortable if we're talking about holistically caring for people? When we know the statistics, when we've sat there and we know how marriages come unglued, how there's a breakdown in communication, how there's a breakdown in finance, how there's a breakdown in sexuality, well, then why aren't we willing, if we're called to lead this group of people, why aren't we willing to talk about that? We don't need detail. I'm not talking about anything creepy. You know my heart on that. I'm talking about the idea of just saying, listen, I care enough to ask, how are things going? They're good. Or they're not. Okay, let's talk about that. It's about loving the people that God's placed under your care. Stories. Are you telling stories? Are you celebrating the people that God surrounded you and championing their stories of what it is that God's done in their life, what God's done through them? Are you cheerleading them? Are you saying things like, we're glad you're on the team? Are you casting vision? Are you talking about where we're headed? I want to give something real practical, and then we're wrapping it up. 3 questions. I ask every leader that's been under me, whether they're a staff pastor or a volunteer, typically more in the organization of a volunteer. I say these 3 questions. Are you overwhelmed, underwhelmed, or just right? It's a great question. They're great questions. Are you overwhelmed, are you underwhelmed, or are you just right? You'll have people that you think are being stretched, and they're like, I'm underwhelmed. You're like, really? Like, yeah, I could take more. Like, dude, let's do that. Or somebody that you think's killing it, and they're like, I'm overwhelmed. And you can address that. But if you don't ask, you don't know. So 3 questions you can ask to get a gauge. And so the last thing that I just kind of want to say as I'm done is, how self-aware are you, really? Because all of it is hinged on your willingness to be like, I want to lead with diligence. I want to care for the people that God's placed under my care. I want to have a vision that's white hot. I want to lean into it with clarity. I want to be well rested. I want to have a team that's healthy. I want to have a healthy group of people that share the broken parts of their life as well as the joys, and we're going to run together to accomplish what God's called us to do. We're going to take a risk for God. That's leadership. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, come before you tonight. And we're thankful for the insights that have maybe been shared, but more importantly, we're thankful for your Spirit that's so faithful to do what it is that I can't do, or what the most eloquent of people that would come up here could do, and that's just cut to the marrow of our bones, Lord, that you would break our hearts tonight, that the thing that you would have us focus on, that it would just resonate, that you would seal it within our hearts and in our minds, that we would leave this place contemplating, self-aware am I? God, what are you calling me to do? What do I have to rearrange? What do I have to reevaluate or consider? Lord, I pray that we would leave this place having had an encounter with you to be forever changed. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thanks, guys.